The email came in while I was mid-call with our Japan partners, finalizing a deal I'd nurtured for 11 goddamn months. The kind of deal that could have carried our Q4 single-handedly. I was smiling, genuinely, stupidly smiling, when my screen pinged with the subject line, urgent, role termination notification. I didn't open it right away. I thought it was phishing, or a mistake, or maybe some poorly executed April Fool's joke in August. The voice on the other end kept speaking in clipped, polite English, and I kept nodding, and the email just sat there like a quiet little knife waiting to twist. I clicked it open while muting myself. It was real, 2 lines, from the COO, Eric Dentz. Due to structural realignment, your role is now redundant. Please clear your desk by 5 p.m. today. Your final paycheck will be deposited within the next 14 business days. I stared at it. Something under my skin went cold. Not angry, not sad, just quiet. The kind of quiet that comes before a thunderclap. I unmuted. We'll move forward with Tokyo's terms. I'll send the paperwork by end of day, I said, then hung up. They wouldn't be getting that paperwork, not anymore. I walked into the ladies' room, locked the door, looked in the mirror. The reflection stared back, lipstick perfect, blouse still crisp from the morning steam, expression unreadable. Didn't cry, I didn't scream. I just reached into my phone, scrolled to an encrypted folder named Archangel Protocol, and tapped once. A progress wheel spun silently. No dramatic alarms, no crashing sounds, just a system-wide shutdown rolling like a fog over everything they ever thought they owned. Back in my office, I packed slowly, carefully. The things that mattered. The 1922 fountain pen from my grandfather, my old university ID card, stone paperweight shaped like a chess pawn, and the framed photo of my son, now fully grown and stationed overseas, still thinking his mom was just some marketing executive. I didn't take the awards, not the 12 Excellence in Strategy plaques, not the stupid crystal cube engraved with loyalty is leadership, because I wasn't loyal anymore. Outside, the screens began to flicker. First, the main dashboard on floor 6. Then, the analytics war room on 8, and the procurement server froze. The internal comms platform logged everyone out. Slack, Google Drive, SAP. Even the espresso machine in the executive lounge blinked red and went dead. I didn't have to stay to see it all collapse, but I did. Just long enough. And that's when Eric came running, loafers clicking, panic painted on his face like a toddler who lost his mom at Costco. He burst into my office just as I was placing the pawn paperweight in my bag. "The hell did you do?" He barked, voice cracking like a vinyl record left in the sun. I looked up at him calmly. "You said I was redundant, so I removed what was redundant. You think this is funny?" He hissed, slamming his hand on my desk. I stood up slowly. He backed off a step. "No, Eric," I said, "I think it's poetic." And I walked past him. His phone rang as I stepped into the hallway. His voice dropped an octave as he answered, "Yes, I'm aware. No, I don't know how to fix it." He didn't even look at me as I passed. He would, very soon. Because what none of them knew, what no one but me had ever known, was that I didn't just build the digital backbone of this company. I owned it, and buried in those lines of code was a clause. One clause, a trigger, that turned their kingdom into glass. By the time I hit the parking garage, the security team had been mobilized like I was a damn terrorist. 2 fresh-faced guards, either of whom had been alive when I onboarded, tried to politely detain me near the stairwell. One reached for my arm. I didn't flinch. "Ma'am, we've been asked to escort you back upstairs," I cut him off. "No, you've been asked to stall, which means they're scrambling upstairs and don't know what button to push next." He blinked. "Are you threatening the company?" I smiled, slow and deliberate. "No, I already did." Behind me, a faint ding echoed. Elevators were still operational for now. I took the stairs, on principle. By the time I reached my car, I had 47 missed calls. 6 from the same number, legal. 1 from Eric's personal cell, 1 from our Tokyo partner's assistant, already wondering why our server handshake had dropped mid-transmission. Good, let the questions begin. As I pulled out of the garage, I passed a line of panicked executives gathering outside. Phones to ears, suits unbuttoned, confusion thick in the air like pollen during hay fever season. None of them looked at me, not one, except for Alicia, my former assistant, 26. Smart, underpaid, quick with coffee and quicker with code when I let her near the architecture during my sabbatical. She stood on the curb, holding her tablet like a life raft. Our eyes met, and I gave her the slightest nod. She didn't smile, but she didn't look away either, because Alicia knew, not all of it, but enough. Enough to suspect the company's backbone wasn't corporate, it was personal. I drove to the waterfront, my safe space. A battered park bench under a dying maple, half-shadowed by the defunct pier and old graffiti from when this town still had dreams. From there, I watched the ripple begin. First, an investor tweet, sudden outage at Corp, internal breach, then a Reddit thread. Anyone else's company-wide access just vanish. Dev server went cold. Error code 904. And Eric's desperate LinkedIn post. We're currently undergoing a scheduled systems review. Please bear with us. Scheduled my ass. I opened my laptop, launched the encrypted drive, watched the diagnostic dashboard update in real time. Central file system down. CRM core corrupted. HR portal rerouted to offline mirror. Financial servers inert. One red dot blinked, then another, like a reverse constellation spelling out you shouldn't have fucked with the architect. That's when the real calls started. This time, not from the company, no, these were older, hidden numbers, foreign codes, the kind of contacts that didn't exist in any corporate Rolodex. One rang, I answered. A woman's voice, German accented, cold. You pulled it, I did. Is it contained? Yes. For now, there was a pause. You understand the implications if they trace it back. Wrote the protocol, they won't. She hesitated, still, prepare for extraction. If legal routes fail, they'll go personal. I looked out across the water, they already did, and I hung up, because this wasn't just about firing me. This wasn't just corporate betrayal. Eric had poked a hornet's nest without reading the plaque on the hive, and now, he wasn't dealing with a disgruntled former employee. He was dealing with the woman who never once asked for power, because she already had it. Hidden, layered, buried deep, waiting, and now unchained. The breach didn't start with the servers. It started 2 years ago, the moment Eric was promoted to COO and decided his reflection was more important than his foundation. He walked in that day reeking of smug cologne and disruption jargon, talking about leaning out legacy roles and maximizing shareholder trust through operational refinement. Translation: didn't like women over 40 making more money than him, and I made a hell of a lot more. He didn't fire me then. No, Eric was smarter than that. He started slicing at the edges. Took away team budget, restructured reporting lines, replaced my second-in-command with a kid who thought cybersecurity was just changing your Gmail password once a year. Subtle sabotage, death by 1,000 paper cuts. But what he didn't know, I'd seen it before. Not from him, but from Mark Duval, back at Derive Solutions in 09. The same culture-first fraud with shiny teeth and a god complex who tried to erase me and got erased instead, financially, publicly, and by the time I was done, emotionally. That man sends me thank you notes now, from therapy. So when Eric started playing games, I started drawing blueprints. I began building the loop, parallel shadow system that mirrored every department's critical operations, but answered only to me. Think of it like a skeleton key, invisible, undetectable, but if activated, it replaced the primary infrastructure one heartbeat at a time. Why? Because Eric wasn't just incompetent, he was reckless, and one night last October, he proved it. I got a ping on my home terminal, 2:17 a.m. Unauthorized login attempt on the Salary Vault database, source internal, masked IP, but the signature was sloppy, half obscured by a weak VPN trail routed through his assistant's laptop. The Salary Vault holds more than pay stubs. It holds equity vesting data, offer history, severance clauses, and blackmail files. I didn't confront him, yet. I just logged the attempt and adjusted the loop sensors. From that night forward, every keystroke in C-Suite was mirrored, timestamped, and stored, including what I found 3 months later. A backroom memo, stamped confidential, titled Phase 3, Post-Redundancy Compensation Restructure. My name was listed, alongside 4 others, all women, all VPs or higher, all over 45, all marked, sever with cause, minimize liability. No wonder he smiled at me like I was invisible during the last board review. No wonder legal stopped CCing me on compliance briefs. No wonder my budget for team wellness vanished while Eric got a new espresso bar installed next to his office. He was planning a quiet purge, and I planned a louder one, because this wasn't just a vendetta anymore. This was war, and in war, you don't show your weapons. You bury them. Wait, and then detonate when everyone's too busy sipping espresso to notice the ticking sound beneath their feet. 3 hours after I walked out, Eric initiated what they probably called a recovery cascade. I watched it unfold from the comfort of a hotel lounge downtown, 5-star, of course. Company perks, still on my card. They hadn't revoked my access yet. Another oversight. The screen across the bar switched from muted soccer commentary to a breaking news ticker. Major East Coast tech firm hit by internal anomaly. Operations frozen, sources say. I sipped my drink, neat, no ice, refreshed the diagnostics feed. They'd rebooted the core server, which triggered a recursive loop in the mirrored structure I'd built. a loop that simulated success while feeding them digital garbage. On paper, everything looked fine, but inside, it was a spaghetti plate of false access points, echo data, and sandbox traps. I left them chasing ghosts. Meanwhile, Eric called me, finally, blocked number, amateur. I answered with silence. He started talking fast, too fast. I don't know what you think you're doing, but this is corporate sabotage. You're risking lawsuits, prison time. Hell, we can still fix this, Julia. First name, like we were friends. You cleared my desk, I said calmly. Now clear your conscience. I'll pay you personally. Just undo whatever it is you did. Oh, Eric, I said almost sweetly. You think this is about money? He paused. You always thought it was about money. That's why you'll never understand who you're dealing with. I hung up. That's when the text came in from Alicia. Just one sentence, he's panicking. Just asked IT if a full unplug and blow dry would help. I chuckled. Dry, bitter. Then I replied, get the mirror drive out. Step 1, Ravenwake protocol. You remember the rest. No emojis, no warmth, just trust. Because Alicia wasn't just an assistant. She was the apprentice I never told anyone I had. I trained her in between board meetings, after-hours war rooms, and the chaos of layoffs. I'd seen her potential years before she saw it herself. She was cautious, precise, and she never once broke protocol. More importantly, she knew the exit plan. I had built it not just to burn the house down, but to rebuild it under a new name. Eric never knew what Ravenwake meant. That word never appeared in a single server log, board memo, or IT glossary. But Alicia knew, because behind the loop, behind the silent kill switch, behind the misdirection, was the inheritance. The infrastructure I'd quietly carved out and cloaked under dead startups and domain shells for over a decade. Secure, private, portable, and with the right trigger, it would resurrect under a new entity, one where the clients followed me, not the brand. I didn't need to beg for relevance. I'd engineered it. They just hadn't realized yet that when they cut me loose, they actually unhooked themselves from their own spine. And the clock was ticking, because tomorrow morning, the Tokyo contract was set to expire, and I was the only one who could renew it, and this time I'd be signing under my name. Tokyo didn't wait long. At exactly 9:01 a.m. their time, 8:01 p.m. mine, I received the encrypted message through the secondary channel we'd used during political unrest in 21. One word, broken. Replied, not broken. Unplugged. Interested? The reply came 4 minutes later attached to a PDF, a letter of intent, direct, unfiltered, addressed to me. They weren't married to my old company, they were married to my brain, my architecture, my system of fail-safes that let them operate during typhoons while every other supplier crumbled. Now they were offering to shift the entire contract. No middlemen, no Eric, no delay. I closed the file. At that moment, settle. My hands didn't shake, but my heart did that strange lurch it used to do right before presentations that decided if we made payroll or shut down half a continent. It wasn't relief. It was arrival. Alicia called 30 minutes later, burner line. Voice tense but controlled. He's locked in the IT vault, she said, screaming about how you've hijacked the soul of the company. Eagle's trying to draft emergency arbitration, but they can't even access the template servers. I leaned back in my seat. Perfect. Initiate phase 2, she hesitated. Julia, this'll burn everything. The internal archives, the board files, even my own history. I know, because it had to be clean. Untouchable. If even a fragment of my system got pulled back into their ecosystem, they'd claim partial IP, drag me into courts until my hair turned white and my legacy turned into exhibits through Z. So phase 2 didn't just destroy the bridge. It sunk the damn continent behind it. Alicia entered the fail commands. I heard her breath catch as she hit the final line. Ravenwake sequence auth execute 5, boom, not an explosion, but erasure. My signature vanished from every build log, every commit chain, every access grant. Even the digital plaque outside the innovation lab that once bore my name flickered, stuttered, then reset to unattributed. Inside the company, panic collapsed into grief, because they weren't just locked out now, they were amputated. I opened my laptop again, keyed into the Ravenwake backend. Clean, perfect, fully operational. Within the hour, 3 more messages came in. One from a Berlin aerospace firm. One from a Scandinavian fintech group. One from a Washington agency that didn't officially exist. All asking versions of the same question. Are you accepting new contracts under the new umbrella? I smiled. Umbrella, how poetic. That's what I had been for 22 years. Shielding idiots from storms they didn't understand. Now, I was the storm, and I had just started raining. By midnight, Old Company's homepage was reduced to a static splash screen with a typo-ridden apology. We are experiencing unprecedented technical issues. Please check back later. That spelling told me everything. Eric was writing it himself, and he was unraveling. I knew how he'd spiral. I'd seen glimpses back when investors pressed too hard during Q and As, the twitch in his right eye, the way his jaw locked when he didn't know the answer and had no one to throw under the bus. I'd once saved him mid-conference with a well-placed technical issue excuse and a fake demo. He bought me a bottle of wine afterward like I was a babysitter who kept his secret. Now, there was no one left to hold his leash. At 12:22 a.m., I received a private video message from his wife, not a call, a video message. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity always was my flaw. She sat in their kitchen, half lit by the oven clock. Makeup, no veneer, just the glossy exhaustion of a woman who's lived with a man unraveling behind closed doors long before the public noticed. "Julia," she said, voice low, eyes heavy. "I don't know what he did, but he keeps saying your name like it's a curse or a confession." She looked off-screen, then back at the camera. "I know this doesn't mean anything to you now, but you weren't wrong. About him, about all of it." She ended with silence. No plea, no defense, just surrender, and I didn't feel vindicated. I didn't feel anything, because the chessboard was already scorched. No pawns, no kings, just ashes. By morning, half of my old clients had reached out through back channels, not to ask what happened, but to ask for seats at my table. The Tokyo deal was done. I signed it using my new LLC, Ashwick Systems, a name born from fire. Trademarked months ago. Quietly, because here's the part nobody ever understood. While they called me redundant, I was busy preparing succession. Not just survival, evolution. Alicia had deployed the skeleton team. 2 ex-data analysts I'd poached from an internal layoff list, a legal contractor who once sued us and respected me more than her own firm, and a systems architect from Toronto who'd been blackballed for refusing to sell user data under the table. We were nobody. And together, untouchable. That morning, Eric finally went live. A broadcast, sweaty, disheveled, eyes manic. He leaned over the boardroom webcam like a villain mid-meltdown. "There has been an unauthorized breach by a former employee. This act will be pursued to the full extent of the law. We are working diligently with our partners to restore core services." He paused, then added, unscripted, unhinged. "She thinks she can destroy everything we built, but she was never the foundation. It was just a tool." That clip hit Twitter in under 5 minutes. Alicia posted a single word beneath it, wrench. The replies came like wildfire. No system collapses like this without her being the system. If she was just a wrench, why are you bleeding from the head, bro? Put respect on the name. Ashwick is coming, he didn't realize it yet. But his press conference, it was my best PR. And every word he said tightened the noose he tied around his own legacy, because the world was finally seeing what I already knew. You don't fire the architect, and then act surprised when the building falls on your head. The DOJ called me that evening. Not with threats, with questions. A man named Harrow, crisp voice, no accent, didn't even introduce his agency. He didn't need to. The way he said my name told me he wasn't reading from a script. "We're aware of a potential misclassification of intellectual property," he said. "You prepared to confirm the system architecture was solely your design?" "Every line," I replied, "and every bypass, which is why your subpoena will bounce off their legal department like a tennis ball in a hurricane." He went quiet for a second. I heard a lighter flick in the background. Then, "Would you be open to consulting?" I smiled, not out of arrogance, but because I could finally feel the shift. For 2 decades, I'd built fortresses for other men. Now I was being asked to teach them how to tear theirs down. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just said, "Send your questions in writing. My new counsel prefers it that way." Then I hung up. Alicia messaged me. "He tried to rehire your whole team. Offered everyone double, no takers." I wasn't surprised. They'd seen too much. Not just of Eric, but of me, staying up past midnight reworking failed deployment plans, smoothing over departmental idiocy, shielding interns from HR retaliation while still coding backend work at 4 a.m. They didn't follow me because I paid more. They followed because I broke first and rebuilt sharper. The board filed for emergency mediation the next morning. Their press release blamed a rogue former employee for disrupting core systems beyond contractual norms. And yet, they never used my name, because using it would have been an admission that I had one worth fearing. Still, didn't stop the spiral. First, a leak hit the press. Screenshots of internal memos showing Eric's plan to cut all non-essential female leadership over age 45 by Q3. The phrase he used was sunsetting legacy voices. That headline caught fire. #legacy voices don't go quietly trended for 48 hours straight. I didn't write the op-ed. Someone else did. an ex-contractor from DevOps. He told the world about how I'd once rerouted a DDoS attack during my father's funeral, with one hand on my laptop and the other holding my son's. They called it myth. It wasn't. I hadn't cried that day. I hadn't eaten. I hadn't told anyone. I just fixed what no one else could. Now, the world knew, and Eric, he vanished. 2 days later, the company posted an announcement. Effective immediately, our COO will be taking an indefinite leave of absence. Not even a resignation, just absence. That same hour, Alicia sent me a photo, the brass nameplate from his office door, tossed, cracked, smeared with what looked like coffee. Caption, he left before the cleaners showed up. Guess even he knew it was over. I didn't reply because by then I was watching Ashwick Systems onboard its 5th client in 12 hours, and Tokyo had just wired a 7-figure retainer. No office, no overhead, no permission, just me. The empire they never saw coming, because it didn't wear a suit or smile for meetings or play nice at networking brunches. It wore scars and silence and code. The first press request came at 3:14 a.m., a journalist from Wired who'd admired my resilience and wanted to do a profile. I deleted it. Then came Forbes, Bloomberg, TechCrunch, all asking the same thing. Would I like to share my side of the story? There was no side. There was a truth. Then there was the wreckage. Eric's empire didn't collapse in fire. It rotted, quietly, the way things die when no one believes in them anymore. Their next earnings call was postponed, twice. Stock froze, then tanked. Clients fled like rats off a drowning spreadsheet. Meanwhile, Ashwick didn't advertise, didn't recruit, didn't pitch. We just answered the phone. Because reputation travels faster than marketing ever could, mine was no longer whispered in hallways or buried in footnotes. It echoed in every crash report they couldn't decrypt, in every contract that reappeared with my signature instead of theirs, in every "we'd rather follow her than rebuild with you." I gave Alicia the choice to go public. CTO title, full rights. She declined. Let them guess who built the back end, she said. Mystery sells better anyway. Smart girl. Tokyo sent us a box of engraved pens. Lynn sent a bottle of wine so old the cork crumbled when we opened it. Washington didn't send anything, but 2 weeks later, a high-clearance cyber-resilience contract landed in our inbox with no bidding process. Just coordinates, budget, and a non-disclosure clause longer than a Russian novel. We took it. Then one morning my son called from base, video chat. He looked at me for a moment, then said, "Mom, you're trending again." I laughed. Am I finally cool? He shook his head. Nah, just terrifying. We talked about nothing, everything. He asked if I was happy. I said I didn't know yet, but I wasn't angry anymore, and that was new. That was enough. When we hung up, I walked outside to the rooftop deck of the brownstone I'd just closed on. No mortgage, no strings, just mine. The wind rolled in off the city like applause with no hands. Down below, the world churned. Lawsuits, pivots, reinventions. Eric resurfaced eventually. New title, new suit, different city. But the stain followed him. Because while he might have buried the scandal under NDAs and hush bonuses, he could never bury the one fact that haunted him. He didn't get outsmarted by a rival. He got outlived by the redundant one. And I didn't just walk away with revenge. I walked away with the blueprint, the keys, the kingdom, and no intention of letting anyone else hold the gate again.